You're listening to The Collective Journey.
What's up?
Courtney and Abe on the mic. We took last week off. We've had so much going on with the holidays.
Tactical pause.
Yeah. I didn't get that one up first, sorry. But I was going to say, could we bring them up to speed and tell everybody about our Christmas tree escapade? Like, about how we went to the farm and then we're putting it up.
I mean, you're already saying it pretty much. But no, yeah. So we cut down a Christmas tree. I probably should have pre-measured. Did not. And we ended up with like a 20-foot Christmas tree. Luckily, obviously, the house accommodates. But I was like, yeah, this one looks perfect. And at the time, it didn't even look that big, huh?
I feel like when looking back, I didn't think I really realized it either. Like, I'm like, that's where we kind of fell because, like, we always get into these, like ideas where one of us is overdoing it and the other one is just totally hyping up the other one.
Yeah.
And you
that
were
was
like,
us.
I want to get the biggest tree out there. Wouldn't that be so badass? And at first I was like, no, because I'm always like thinking about the price.
I said that, but I was like, bigger than normal tree, bigger than like your 6-foot tree, maybe like a 7. And I was like, once we were out there and the lady was like, all right, pick any tree. And we were like running around. I was like, damn, this tree right here, this one right here, this one right here. This is it. And we started cutting it down and even pawing it out, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's not that big, pretty light. Levi was helping.
Did it feel big coming down? Like when you were like cutting it down?
Nah, like what maybe I'm just hella strong, but
maybe so.
No, not even. No, like when I was dragging it out, I was like, this isn't even that heavy. And then I threw it up on the car and it didn't look that big either, right?
No, but you know what I thought about when I was going?
It's because I got the wagon, huh?
It's because you got a wagon. That's why we didn't think twice about it.
Yeah, so it's the German way, all right? So I'm tired of your mom always ragging on me for having the wagon, but it's the German way. But threw it up on the on the wagon, took it home, brought it upstairs, and it's not until we threw it up here, right? And I'm putting it on the stand. And I got like last year we bought that cheap like IKEA stand. Mm-hmm. And it was way too big. And we still made it work. I don't know how. It'll probably fall at any day. Like, this is way too big for that stand.
You can't speak that into existence for us. All I was thinking earlier when Levi was like hitting the tree, I was watching the top of it shake and I was like, oh, please, please, please. And then it took us, like, we literally had the tree sitting in the house for a week because it would be that we got the tree early. So we thought, but then it took us a week to get the ornaments and get the lights because somehow our lights disappeared from last year and we live in Germany. So we have to have the 220 volts in lights.
I'm not going to lie. We had lights last year and I threw them away.
Good job.
I didn't want to like put them away. I didn't want to hoard lights.
I don't know what the word is, but you're very irrational. When you want to clean, like you go on these cleaning sprees, you just start like getting rid of stuff that we like actually need.
I'm like, we don't need it. We don't need this.
But you're also the hoarder.
Yeah, but this specific souvenir from 10 years ago. Yeah, we need this.
Yeah.
This pamphlet from when we went to Paris or something like that. I'm like, yeah, it's cool little memento.
But then, so I was telling everybody on my IG story how it took us literally an entire day to put the decorations and put the lights up and how the lights like were tangled up and it took us 2 hours to get them untangled and Levi had a meltdown and then we had a meltdown trying to get them untangled.
I was just going to throw them away. Straight up. That's it.
So irrational.
I said it, or I was going to cut them and then rewire them.
But I was just really glad that like we didn't get in, like none of it caused a fight, but it was all like really frustrating. But then it was also funny at the same time. But we got through it. And now we have our tree up, and we have it decorated.
Yeah. So let's talk. I mean, speaking of the holidays, I mean, I guess we're here to talk about
being in quarantine. It's the holidays, and it's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, right? Like everybody is talking about how happy they are, and it's, like make the best of it. But sometimes this isn't like necessarily like the most happiest time of the year for some people. Not for everybody.
no.
And I feel like when I say that, like we could be catering to a small audience for today's episode. But I did want to make sure that we talked to, like approach this sensitively and appropriately. This is just a disclaimer. We are not, this is Courtney and Abe on the mic, just giving you advice and tips. And this is our outlook. So we wanted to talk about how sometimes you need to know when to ask for help. And what does that look like? Because I feel like everybody knows, okay, when my side hurts, I'm going to go to the doctor. Or when my pants don't fit, I'm going to get a personal trainer or go to the gym. But why is it when maybe you don't always want to get out of bed every morning, or maybe you continuously have a bad day, day in, day out, and you're in a bad mood? Why don't you know when to say, hey, I need to go get professional help?
Well, I just don't think as a society we're getting there, right? And like how you're saying, that if you want to lose weight, you get a personal trainer or a nutritionist. But if you, I guess, want to get mentally healthy, right, not physically, you need to do those same things. And for some people, working out every day for, 30 minutes, an hour a day, that's kind of maintaining your physical health. Mm-hmm. And for some people, mental health, right, going on a walk, working out, spending time with family, doing leisure activities, that's your way of maintaining your mental health, right? Mm-hmm. But what do you do, right, when you need more help, right? You need not necessarily an intervention, but you need professional help, right? Kind of like a physical trainer and nutritionist.
Yeah, I like calling it professional help because, so my take on this subject is I come from a family where when we were growing up, like we didn't show emotion. Like you show emotion, that's a sign of being weak. Like I was always told, like you need to learn to let that stuff roll off your shoulders. And I think take that with a grain of salt, because it does get to a point where you start suppressing things, right, because it was just preached so heavily.
Right.
Not to show emotions, not to feel emotions. Like we don't do that. And so I also feel like being in the Mexican community, like it's not really common that we do that we say, hey, yeah, I need help. Like my dad would always be like, we don't do that. I don't know what your parents were like, but that always came from my family. Like, that's not how we are. Like, that's not what we do. But I feel like with 2020, like we're learning in this generation more about emotional intelligence.
Definitely. And, just like how you're saying, that kind of runs rampant, definitely within the Latino community. A good mom, good wife, plays that role. And, the man plays that role, mm-hmm, of, being the protector and the provider and this, that, and, being the emotional pillar of the family. And even maybe in a lot of just traditional, just conservative families, probably like that also. You're from Texas. I kind of see it in your guys' Texan culture also.
Traditional gender roles.
Yeah. But that's not necessarily, I guess you don't have to abide by that. And is definitely okay to step outside that social norm,
Yeah.
right?
I would say, because is it really a social? I mean,
It's definitely a social
it
norm.
is a social
Yeah.
norm, but I feel like it's not normal to be
No.
a man and not feel emotions and to be like I shouldn't showcase these. It's like no, you should
Yeah.
because you're human. Like,
Yeah,
we're
and
all human.
grit and resiliency is like definitely things that I think everybody should embody and kind of have a little bit of. But like how you're saying, there's a point where you're not doing that. You're not letting it roll off of you. You're just suppressing things, and then obviously that translates into different aspects of your life. Your relationship, your marriage, your relationship with your kids,
Yeah.
your eating habits, and even your physical habits. Like you start to become a little bit more lethargic. You stay in bed longer. You contemplate life. At the beginning of every morning, and you're like, oh my God, like I don't want to go to work. It's
Yeah.
horrible, or I guess my life isn't where it should be. So you're like kind of down in the dumps. And I know a lot of people definitely struggle with that. And, I feel like it's amplified during the holidays.
Right?
Right. Yeah. Like seasonal depression. And then for a lot of people there, or at least in our community, or just living abroad in general, or anybody that just is away from family and doesn't have the ability to go home and visit family. You're away from family. You don't have that support system. So it gets tough. All those things are mentally and emotionally draining.
Right? And it needs to be said that we have to, reverse the stigmatism on like it's okay to not be okay. And I feel like that's something that we hear more now in this day and age, but we need to practice it more. Like I still feel like when I see somebody talk about, open up emotionally about something that doesn't look very pretty and it's not presented in a nice and neat box, and it's like, hey, I'm a wreck today. People still are like, in Texas, they say like, bless your heart, which is like a backhanded compliment.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't either. It's like, it's really passive aggressive. And that's why I love the East Coast, because they just say everything in front of your face. But anyways, it's just kind of like when it's not presented in a nice and neat box and somebody opens up about how they feel emotionally, people still shy away from that because we're still having to reverse this generation of we play, like everybody has to play into a gender role. Like you're a woman, this is the role you're fulfilled to play, and you're a man, this is the role you're fulfilled to play. And we don't allow people to just be human. And when you're human, you don't always play into those roles. And when you're human, you don't always wake up happy. And when you're human, you don't always do things in this nice and neat order. And life doesn't always work out the way it's supposed to, because that's the way it's supposed to be. Like life is messy. And I feel like we tell these lies. I always like tell my sisters, I'm like, anybody who tells you that they have it all figured out, they're liars. And people who tell you that they've never made a wrong turn in life or they've never done anything, made a mistake, like they're liars. Like life is supposed to be messy, but it's knowing when to wake up and be like, you know what? It's okay for me to be sad and down, but it's time for me to get help because I can't solve this problem on my own, because essentially that's what it is. And no problem is too big to solve. Every problem has a solution.
Yeah. And honestly, I think we're just shifting also, right? Like back in the day, everybody had this image to maintain.
Yeah.
Of the perfect family. The Johnson family has the brand new car and the nice house, and the wife stays at home. But like behind the scenes, she's downing bottles of wine. The kids are hoodlums, and the dad is, getting shitted on at work, and he comes back and, he's mostly angry to his family. All those things, right? But
absolutely.
That's like, like 1950s. But I feel like today it's kind of shifted in the sense, social media, right? Everybody highlights their accomplishments, right? Nobody really highlights their their failures or what really is going on. You know, you look at, you know, certain bloggers or certain people's lives on Instagram, and, you know, they're only taking pictures of like the good, you know, like I went on this trip, I won this award, I got this promotion, but very few people, and that's fine, right? Like those are, you always want to, you know, do positive things or, you know, showcase positive attributes about you. But I think people kind of really focus or hyper focus on, oh man, like A, B, and C person have, looks like from the outside looking in, looks like they have everything figured out and everything is going right in their life. And they're looking at themselves and they're like, last week I got a speeding ticket, you know, I was late on my rent on this, and, you know, I got fired on my job and my boss talked to me and I was late to work, and, you know, my kid is having trouble at school, you know, like all these like problems, maybe small problems. I think they're small problems that could, you know, easily be fixed or something. And, you know, and then you're comparing yourself to that. It's tough. And, you know, and it all plays into this whole, people don't want to ask for help because they don't want to look like the loser. Right. So
It does. I think social media, it really alludes to, like, everybody lives a perfect lifestyle. Like, everybody's house is always clean and everybody that's in a relationship is in love, and something's wrong if you're not in a relationship. And look at her, like, they're always traveling, but you don't know what it took for them to get where they're at. Like, you're only seeing them at the end of the goal, if that makes sense. Like,
top
you're
of the
not
mountain. Yeah, you don't see the climb.
exactly. Like, you don't know what their climb's been like. So that's also something to kind of keep in mind. But with all of those things being shared and said, what's great about right now is that everything's going virtually. Like, so whereas before you could be like, well, I know that I need to get, like, once you get past the point, like, okay, fine, got it, I need to get help. So then maybe you come to the conclusion where you're like, I know I need help, but I don't know how to get it. Right. So,
How do you get help?
I mean, you know, we're living the 21st century where technology is right at our hands, and it's like you go and you use Google. No, but there's options, right? Like, there's all kinds. So quarantine, it's like you can't walk into an office right now. But what you can do is you can do Zoom calls. I was pausing because I was trying to think, like, what the phrase is now called. It's kind of changed, but, like, Zoom calls is like a thing for therapy, and I think it's really great.
Smart.
It is. And I just, because this is my chosen career field, I've followed it for so long, and I've been a resource to people that I've worked with over the years anytime anything's come, you know, their way. And I know that people have shied away from that in the past. Like, even I have. Like, I don't know that I really want to talk on Skype to somebody for professional help, but I can say that it's actually easier and it's more comforting because you don't have to, like, get up and go somewhere. You don't have to wait in line and have people see you in an office. Like, you're just in the comfort of your own home, and, you know.
Yeah, you're in your comfort space, right?
Exactly.
And that's a big thing, I guess, when you're obviously trying to find maybe a coach or what do you call it? You don't call it a therapist. You call it something else.
There's counselors, and so you could see a counselor. Like, my advice to anyone always is go see a counselor, because I believe that that's where you should start. And wherever you have to work your way from there, but that should always be your, like, bottom baseline. So meaning, like, if a counselor didn't give you the help that you need and you need to go see a therapist or a psychiatrist, then you move up, but always start with a counselor. My new favorite chosen career, I would say what's the word? I'm coming up short on words. Help me out. What I've been introduced to this year.
Oh, the life coach.
The life coach, a life and mindset coach. You guys, if you haven't heard of this or you're skeptical, don't. Because I feel like everybody needs a coach in their life.
Like it's not just for the rich and famous, right?
It's not. And, just dropping some hints here. Jennifer Lopez, she has a life and mindset coach on top of a trainer. And it's like, that makes so much sense. Like, why are we allowing people to
You
shy
said
us
trainer,
away?
like physical trainer?
Yeah.
Physical
like
trainer,
course.
and you have a mental trainer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like why wouldn't you have that? Like why are you allowing people to steer you away from that? Because what I wanted to say earlier was that I have a lot of friends who are like, I come to you. Like you are the person I talk to because you're my friend. But I'm like, I'm your friend. I can only tell you so much, but like you should really speak to somebody who is a professional. Like you should step outside that stigmatism that you shouldn't do that. Like break that down.
And outside your circle, pretty much, right? There's things that you're going to tell your friend or not tell your friend that you're going to tell somebody who is doesn't have any sort of connection towards you. And, you build this trust instead of like, hey, I told Becky and Becky told the girls at the office. Now, X, Y, and Z is happening.
Absolutely. I'm like, that's another conversation another day. But so life and mindset coach, like I got one this year. I can like personally speak on it. The best.
How long was it?
What?
How long?
So I saw her for 12 weeks. I was like in a class with her and she put on it's like a Zoom class with other women and it was great. There were so many.
So you had like a team, like a support group.
Yeah. And she so incredible. And just having that experience, and I've done like counselors before, and there is such a difference in what you get if you see a counselor than when you see a coach. And I almost feel like people would be more motivated towards that than seeing a counselor, because it's just like a coach is somebody who's like, hey, like you need to get up and you need to go and do this, like they're there to motivate you.
Yeah, some people don't have mentors, right? I know in our profession, like we have mentors, we have people that motivate us. And I mean, me especially, I know my coworkers / mentors, if I'm down and out, like they quickly identify it just because I spend so much time with it. And they're like, hey, this is what you got to do. Like, where you at on this? Have you been taking this class? Where you at on this certification? Like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Make sure you don't work too hard and spend some time at home, like.
Yeah. So I feel
but
like
some people don't have that, right? So this is like a perfect avenue. And honestly, I kind of like the idea of doing it with like a group of people, like a team.
Yeah.
And you have people that are kind of going through similar problems that you're going through, and it kind of makes you feel right. You're
alone.
Not alone, exactly. And you said it's all Zoom calls, right? And you can pick your schedule, and when your little one goes down for a nap, like you can hop on that Zoom call and do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about your time management skills.
What are some of the things that you guys talked about?
So we dived into things that motivate us, like what motivates you. And it had just been a while since I had done something like that, and we had just all kinds of, she did exercises that we went into class, and then we had journal prompts outside of class.
What are those, or like what does that entail? The exercises or journal prompts?
The exercises would have been anything from like, talking about trust, like how much do you trust yourself, or and talking about like breaking down certain things that are just not, I would say, that, for me, that like I just didn't learn at home that maybe I should have,
Right.
things that I just did not learn in school that I was learning with her.
Right.
Like important, I would say like emotionally intelligent things. Like, oh, you have this problem or that problem. But if you learn to look at life like this or like that, or she, would talk to us about like I said, just like diving into like the whole emotional intelligent like of like what your emotions are, and like we had like she showed us a diagram of a wheel of all kinds of emotions that people always just put them into like you're happy, angry, sad, or mad, and it's like no, it goes deeper than that, bro.
Right.
So like learning to go through those and like be like, okay, well, what am I? And then reflecting on it. And then, so then like we go through class and we're sharing our experiences. And then after class, like we had the exercises with journal prompts, and then it just made you learn to take the time to sit and reflect and think. And sometimes journaling is a good tool to learn when you're trying to, like get through the issues in the day-to-day, whether it's professional or personal, right? So I highly recommend it, depending on the kind of person that you are, because sometimes sitting in an office and being like, so how did that make you feel? Like, I feel like that scares people or that intimidates people.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand, your counselor, your therapist, your life coach, you might get one and that might not necessarily be like a fit for you. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody has different flavors. You have different styles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have different fashion choices. You have different, you like different food from X, Y, and Z person. Like we're all individuals, and there isn't a cookie cutter therapist, right? Like you have to find the one that fits you. Correct? Mm-hmm. I mean, am I right or am I wrong?
I mean, people have to understand, right? Because if you've never been through the process before, it's like we said, so like, what does it look like? Like you have to be committed. Like you would be committed to anything else. And it's like everybody's committed to something. So you know what commitment looks like. You know what going through a process looks like. And if you get somebody that you're not comfortable with or you're not connecting with, then you're going to have to find somebody else. And you can't make excuses or be like, okay, I give up. Like you have to stay motivated and you have to like keep working towards that goal of finding somebody that you're comfortable with. And just know it's going to work out. Like you're going to find somebody, you're going to find the proper avenue, whether you are going to have a coach or you want to see a counselor. Like you're going to find it. Like you just have to stay motivated and stay on track. That's one thing that a lot of people deal with, I know, is like being like, well, I went to talk to somebody, but they told me this. And it's like, all right, well, if it didn't resonate with you, find somebody else. But so with our profession, there are endless amounts of things that they offer for us, right? Like whether you're in uniform or you're no longer in uniform, but you were and you're a veteran. Like we have so many doors open to us. And I see a lot of people who have nothing to do with the service and they're like, I'm just an average Joe, but I need help and it's expensive and my healthcare doesn't cover it. So I know that there's new age things out there, like BetterHelp is something like I hear continuously. It's supposed to be inexpensive and more affordable. I've looked at the prices. They don't seem so bad, but no, like everybody has like a reason, right? They're like, look, like that might not be expensive for this person over here, but this person over here is trying to make all ends meet and they don't have the money, unfortunately, to go and get help. So what do? Right? So there's podcasts today, you guys, and everybody has a smartphone, so you can download motivational podcasts or like a health and wellness podcast. I mean, you can stay listening to us.
Yes, subscribe now. No.
But I mean, there's like podcasts that specifically are catering to those needs, and that's great because haven't always had that option. So, I mean, that's sometimes it's like you have to be creative and think of things outside the box. I think like listening to podcasts is like one of the best things that you could do. For me, during quarantine, I listen to podcasts all the time, and I think that was like a big thing that helped me stay motivated and kind of keep me going. I love podcasts, and maybe you can't connect through podcast, right? Like maybe that's not your thing, and maybe reading's not your thing, but I know that you're scrolling on social media, and it's really important. We have this conversation all the time. What is it that you tell me about your personal social media, like not pertaining to you, but a person's social media is?
Who they are. Yeah, I always say that all the time. You know, like the stuff that you keep looking at day in and day out. You know, like for the most part, I there's a time, you know, I went through like a social media scrub, and I'm like, what am I really looking at? Like, is this stimulating me mentally? You know, and if it's not, then I don't want it.
Yeah.
Or, you know, is it helping out my mental health? And it could be, yeah, maybe I follow some meme pages, you know, but those, you know, give me a little chuckle, and that helps me out. But yeah, you are who you follow pretty much, right? You are what you eat. It's that same concept. But I kind of want to rewind, and I want to highlight something that you said earlier. You said, some people don't want to spend the money to get the help, which to me, you know, like, I think how much was your life coach thing?
My class, it was
It was like $1,000 or something, right?
yeah, it was a little bit over that.
But I remember when you brought it up to me, you were like, "Oh, this is $1,000," and I was like, "Oh man, that's a lot of money." And then I really thought about it, and I was like, "This is a 12-week class. Like every session would be X amount of money." You know, and then I thought about it. I was like, how much do I spend going to the barbershop? Or how much, you know, for my personal care, right? Or how much does Courtney spend getting her hair done, or doing her nails, or doing her eyebrows, or something like that?
A lot.
Right, a lot. So, but it's along those lines. Like if you were to break it down and space it out, like it seems like a lot, but you know, you got to pay to play. You know, you have to, if you want help, you know, it's people's time. People are giving you their time out of their day, to help you. And for the most part, I think like we priced it out, and it wasn't even that much, right?
Yeah.
It was like very, very doable.
It was. You know, my favorite saying that I took on this year that she said to me was, you need to invest in yourself. And I was like, wow. Because when it comes to college, like you're there because you need a job, right?
Yep.
Or you got to go to the, like
you need that new blazer for the job. Boom. You bought it, right?
You know, like you go to the doctor, no question, but it's like, this is just as important too. And it just makes me so angry when people put it like it's stigmatized, and when it's like, you know, people are like, you're weak, and it's like, no, you're not. You're actually strong for saying, hey, I got to figure this out.
And you don't even have to be like in a bad place or mentally unhealthy to be like, yeah, you know what? I want to become a better version of myself. You know, you could be at this point, and you're like, what if I refine myself? Because there's always room for improvement.
Yeah.
And this is like one of the best ways to do it, you know?
So YouTube channels, also just want to throw that's a shout out. I feel like you're laughing because you know I'm obsessed with YouTube right now.
Yeah, during quarantine, right? And especially I think ever since we got overseas, there's, you know, we watch a lot less TV, you know, and we consume a lot less content, right, via TV, and we kind of like focus in the things that we actually want to watch, which I feel like everybody's kind of shifting towards that. Yeah.
So just another thing, you know, because like I said, it's two things with the price thing is that some people don't. They're like, nope, I'm not paying. But some people can't. You know, like that's not an option. Like you don't know what people's story is.
That's true.
So YouTube, podcast, what you're subscribing to on the daily.
And for people in the military, it's free. You know, like we see a lot of crazy stuff. A lot of combat, a lot of very stressful situations type. And it's free. So if you don't know, now you know, there's free help and you guys should get it. Because I know at least you and I both know at least somebody that's, you know, been so mentally unhealthy or been to that point where, you know, they've done something really extreme. And I feel like for people within our community, that's very common. Yeah.
The numbers are high. It is what it is. It speaks for itself. That's why I was like, hey, I don't mean to come sounding like a Grinch and raining on everybody's parade of everybody trying to ignore the fact of all the things that have taken place this year and they're trying to enjoy this holiday season. But I know that there could be some of us out there who are listening in our community that maybe you needed to hear this. I mean, I hope that this resonates with someone. Just know you're not alone and you can get help and it's okay. It's okay. It's okay to not be okay. And if you're listening and maybe this message wasn't for you, just take it on your day-to-day that you practice that, letting other people know, you know, whether you're at work or in your family, like, hey, you know, like it's okay to not be okay. Like it's okay to feel feelings and, you know, help out your people, like take care of your people. I always say that to Abe because
be a wingman, right?
Yes,
quote unquote,
because we're Air Force. So I always say to Abe, I'm like, you know, when you're at work, like, are you taking care of your people? Because there's a small percentage of us that do this job and we have to look out for each other, whether we're still in uniform or not. Like we're not going to step outside of this job and find people that relate to us unless they've done this job. And we have to take care of our people. So that's why we wanted to get behind the mic and give this message. Do you have anything?
Yeah. And just because you're not in the military community, I know during COVID, people are going through a lot of mental stress, you know, a lot of family stress. I think domestic abuse is on the rise. You know, all sorts of things. So if you do need help, reach out to me. We're here. I know Courtney's here also. So if you could reach out to her and we'll always be here. And even if I can't really provide you anything, I'll always be that sounding board.
A listening ear.
Yep. So with that being said, subscribe, rate and review. Leave us a comment. Show us some love.
Show us some love. Even if you don't like it, let us know. Follow us on Instagram at The Collective Journey Podcast. You can stalk our personal pages at CocoBella68 and at
it's on the Instagram page. Yeah.
Farias. He's like, I don't even want to, but he is. All right, so check us out at The Collective Journey. You can find our personal Instagrams from there. Thanks for listening, you guys. Courtney and Abe signing out. All right, guys. Thanks for listening.